Construction at the restaurant. My voice echoed through my Pittsburgh kitchen as I stared at my phone. But you said Easter brunch was already booked. Well, plans change, Danielle. My mother's clipped tone came through the speaker. Maybe we'll do something small next month. My name is Danielle Holloway. I'm 36. And for as long as I can remember, I've been the family's forgotten footnote. I work as an environmental consultant at Amberlin Ventures, making decent money auditing industrial sites. But to my family, I might as well be invisible. They've perfected the art of scheduling around me, not with me. Understood, I said automatically. It was always easier to just go along. As I hung up, I caught my reflection in the kitchen window. Brown eyes dulled by resignation, shoulders slumped in defeat. When did I become so small? I shook off the thought. Though something didn't sit right about Easter being canceled with only a week's notice. The construction excuse felt flimsy, but I'd learned not to question the family narrative. I pushed aside my rising skepticism and texted my friends. At least they wanted me around. But as I typed, a nagging sensation crept up my spine, the same feeling I got when checking spreadsheets for hidden errors. Something was wrong, but I couldn't pin it down yet. Standing in my bathroom Sunday morning, I applied mascara and tried to ignore the hollow feeling. Easter had always been important to our family. My grandmother's tradition of matching pastel outfits and her famous hot cross buns. Last year, I'd worn a lavender dress that nobody noticed. The year before, green. My sister Harper always got compliments, even when she showed up in jeans. You're overthinking it, I told my reflection. Katie, my cousin and closest family ally, had been oddly quiet lately. Usually, she'd text me details about the cancellation, maybe suggest we meet up anyway. But her silence felt different this time. At family gatherings, she was my buffer, the one person who remembered to include me in photos, to ask about my job. I remembered last Thanksgiving when my Aunt Patricia asked if I was still doing that environmental thing. Katie had jumped in. She's auditing major companies. It's important work. My mother had just nodded absently, then turned to discuss Harper's latest interior design project. My phone buzzed. Texts from my friends confirming brunch at the North Peak Grill. At least someone wanted my company. I slipped into a soft blue dress, telling myself this was better anyway. No forced small talk, no competing with Harper's latest achievements. Just mimosas and genuine conversation. Still, as I grabbed my keys, I noticed the family group chat, the one I'd been removed from 3 months ago when they switched to a smaller planning group. They'd claimed it was just for the holiday committee, but everyone was in it except me. The North Peak Grill hummed with Easter energy. My friends, Jules from yoga class and Brooke from the environmental board, welcomed me with genuine hugs. We settled at a sunny table, mimosas glinting like liquid gold. So your family canceled? Jules asked, stirring her drink. Construction, I said automatically, the lie tasting bitter on my tongue. Brooke raised an eyebrow. In April? That's odd timing. Right? I shrugged, deflecting. But my mom said... My phone lit up mid-sentence. A notification from Katie. My heart lurched. She never used the group chat when I was explicitly excluded. I grabbed my phone, nearly dropping it. Katie. Best private dining room ever. Below, a string of photos. My breath caught. The Gold Spur Collective restaurant's private room, walls gleaming with Easter decorations. My mother at the head table, wearing her signature pearl earrings. My father in his Sunday suit. Harper, perfectly poised in cream-colored silk. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Even the Johnsons from next door. Everyone I'd just been told wouldn't be gathering today, seated at a massive table set with fine china and pastel flowers. My hands shook as I scrolled through the images. There was Grandma's Easter bread, the one she supposedly didn't have time to make this year. There were the matching pastel napkins my mother always insisted upon. There was my own empty place setting, right between Uncle Tom and Aunt Susan, pretending I simply didn't exist. Jules noticed my sudden pallor. "Danny, everything okay?" "Fine," I managed, my voice thick with shock. My fingers moved on autopilot, screenshotting each photo before Katie could delete them. The evidence mounted with each click, but the real sting came with Katie's next message. "Sorry, wrong group." Too late. The truth stared back at me from my phone screen. A carefully orchestrated lie designed to keep me away. My family hadn't just excluded me. They'd actively deceived me, then gathered to celebrate without me. The betrayal cut deeper than any accidental oversight ever could. I set my phone down with deliberate care, though inside something fundamental was shifting. For years, I'd accepted their treatment as thoughtless oversight. But this was intentional cruelty. My hands were steady as I lifted my mimosa, though every part of me wanted to scream. The private dining room in the photos mocked me, a space large enough to include everyone, yet somehow not big enough for me. I'd been erased from their Easter celebration as thoroughly as if I'd never existed, but now I had proof of their deliberate deception, and something told me this evidence would become crucially important. The weeks after Easter were torture. Each family member continued acting as if nothing had happened. My mother called once to criticize my silence lately, but never mentioned Easter. Harper texted a selfie from her new apartment, complete with matching throw pillows. Not one word about the gathering. I went about my days at Amberlin Ventures, auditing environmental compliance reports, but my mind kept drifting to those screenshots. I'd saved them in a separate folder titled Project Family Reunion. I wasn't sure yet what I'd do with them, but they felt like ammunition I might need. At work, my boss Preston noticed my distraction during our weekly meeting. "Everything okay, Danielle? You seem elsewhere today." "Just some family stuff," I managed. Preston nodded knowingly. "Family's complicated. Take care of yourself." His kindness almost broke me. Why couldn't my actual family offer such basic consideration? I excused myself to the bathroom, looking at the screenshots again, trying to understand how they could be so cruel. The worst part wasn't even being excluded. It was being so thoroughly erased that my own cousin could accidentally include me in photos meant for someone else. 2 weeks passed. My phone rang Saturday morning, an unknown Pittsburgh number. Heart racing irrationally, I answered. "Danielle, it's Aunt Patricia. We're planning Memorial Day lunch at the club. You'll come, right?" The casual request felt like stepping into quicksand. "The club?" "The Hollow Gate Club, dear. Where we always go, 1 o'clock. Don't be late like last time." Last time? What last time? I hadn't been invited to Memorial Day in 3 years. My mouth opened to ask, but she'd already hung up. My hands trembled as I stared at the phone. This had to be another setup. The club was the family's fancy venue for major celebrations. Weddings, graduations, retirement parties. They'd never include me for something so significant. Unless... I couldn't shake the feeling this was related to Katie's accidental Easter reveal. Maybe they suspected I knew. Maybe they were testing me. Or maybe they'd decided to make amends in their own twisted way. Whatever it was, I felt like prey walking into a carefully laid trap. The next days crawled by. I checked my phone obsessively, waiting for the cancellation call that surely would come, but it never did. Instead, Harper texted Thursday night. "Looking forward to seeing you Monday." The message felt wrong. Harper never looked forward to seeing me. This was definitely a trap. But what kind? And why? I'd kept quiet about Easter, never confronted anyone. What more did they want? As Memorial Day approached, my anxiety built. I tried focusing on work, but even my environmental audits couldn't distract me. My boss Preston suggested I take Friday off to recharge for the weekend, not realizing my weekend would be an emotional minefield. I stood in my closet Friday evening, staring at clothes that might or might not matter. Should I dress up for a family event I wasn't actually invited to? Or would showing up prepared expose that I knew about their Easter deception? The screenshots on my phone seemed to pulse with importance. Whatever was happening Monday, I had a feeling those photos would play a crucial role. I just had to figure out how to use them without burning down every remaining family bridge. Though at this point, what bridges remained worth saving? Memorial Day arrived with perfect weather that mocked my inner turmoil. I chose a simple navy dress, nice enough to respect the occasion, casual enough to downplay my expectations. As I drove to the Hollowgate Club, my phone sat silent beside me, those Easter screenshots a digital weight in my pocket. The club's circular driveway was packed with familiar cars. Harper's BMW, Uncle Tom's Lexus, even the Johnsons' minivan. My stomach churned as I parked in the back lot. Walking through the ornate lobby, past crystal chandeliers and oil paintings, I felt like an imposter despite my invitation. The hostess greeted me warmly. "Holloway party? Right this way." In the private dining room, my family was already seated around a massive table. My mother's eyes flickered over me dismissively before returning to her conversation with Aunt Patricia. Harper glanced up, offering a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Only Katie seemed genuinely pleased to see me, standing to give me a hug. "You made it," she whispered. "I wondered if you'd come." "Of course she came," my mother interjected coldly. "She's family." The word hung in the air like a challenge. My father nodded absently, already telling Uncle Tom about his golf game. I took the empty seat between Katie and my grandfather, who at least patted my hand. "Glad you're here, Danielle. Don't see you enough." "No," I said quietly. "You don't." The lunch proceeded with strained normalcy. Conversations swirled around me about people I barely knew, places I'd never been invited to visit. Harper dominated the discussion with her latest interior design triumph, some millionaire's lake house. "The client insisted on sustainable materials," Harper said meaningfully. "Maybe Danielle knows about that stuff." All eyes turned to me. The environmental consultant. How quaint, their expressions seemed to say. I opened my mouth to respond, but my mother cut in. "Oh, let's not bore everyone with work talk. This is family time." Family time. The words echoed mockingly in my head, bringing back every Easter photo. The private dining room, the elaborate table setting, the empty spot where I should have been. My fingers found my phone in my lap, thumb hovering over the photo folder. Just then, Uncle Tom's phone rang. He excused himself to take the call, returning minutes later with news that shifted everything. "Well, looks like we'll need to celebrate Cousin Robert's wedding after all. His fiancé's parents backed out of hosting. They want to know if we can step up." My mother sighed dramatically. "We're already hosting the summer's end garden party at the house. That's enough entertaining for one season. Unless," Aunt Patricia said slowly, "we combine them? A massive celebration? Like a family reunion?" The word hit me like ice water. "Reunion?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "Not exactly," my mother said quickly. "Just bringing everything together. Though with the house full, space would be tight." I understood immediately. They were already planning to exclude me from summer's biggest event. The memorial lunch was a test. See how much abuse I'd take before quietly removing myself from consideration. Let them down easy before the real celebration. My phone felt heavy in my lap. Those Easter screenshots suddenly seemed like more than just evidence. They were my salvation. But I needed to play this carefully. One wrong move and I'd lose my only leverage. So I did something unexpected. I smiled. "That sounds wonderful. I'd love to help plan it." The shock on their faces was almost worth the lie. The family slowly processed my unexpected offer. My mother's eyebrows drew together in suspicion. Harper set down her water glass too hard. Even Katie looked surprised. "Help plan?" My mother's voice carried that particular tone, the one that meant she was already calculating how to politely decline. "Sure," I continued, heart hammering. "I've organized environmental conferences. Event planning isn't that different. Venues, catering, logistics." I paused, letting the next word settle carefully. "And I could ensure everyone feels included." The last word landed like a stone in still water. Uncle Tom coughed. Aunt Patricia suddenly found her napkin fascinating. The Easter screenshots burned in my phone like hidden fire. "That's thoughtful," my father offered weakly, glancing at my mother for guidance. "We appreciate the offer," my mother said smoothly. "But we have everything under control." The family gathering committee handled Robert's wedding planning, and they're quite experienced. The family gathering committee, also known as everyone except me. I felt the familiar sting but pressed forward. "Of course. I just meant if you needed any help." "Actually," Katie interrupted, looking guilty, "maybe Danielle could help with environmental considerations. Robert's fiancé is really into sustainability. She mentioned wanting everything eco-friendly." My mother's lips thinned. She couldn't argue with the bride's wishes without looking unreasonable. "I suppose we could discuss." "Wonderful," I said quickly. "Just let me know what you need." As lunch wound down, I excused myself to the restroom. In the ornate powder room, I stared at my reflection, pale, eyes bright with unshed tears and barely contained rage. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the Easter photos again. The evidence that proved their elaborate deception, the ammunition I hadn't yet used. When I returned to the table, coffee was being served. I sipped mine quietly as the conversation shifted to summer plans. The lake house, various trips, children's camps, all events I'd never hear about firsthand. As I listened to their choreographed lives, a plan crystallized in my mind. "I should probably go," I said, standing. "Thank you for including me today." My mother's startled expression confirmed she hadn't expected gratitude. "Of course, dear. We're family." Katie walked me to the door, gripping my arm. "I'm sorry about Easter," she whispered. "I should have told you." "I know you are," I said softly. Then, carefully chosen, "Some secrets eventually come out on their own." She looked stricken, understanding my veiled meaning. I kissed her cheek, my last genuinely kind gesture before executing my plan. As I drove home, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Marissa Collins, Robert's fiancé. Katie gave me your number. I'd love to discuss sustainable options for the wedding reunion." My throat tightened. They were really going to make me plan parts of an event I'd likely be excluded from. The cruelty was almost admirable in its efficiency. But something else came through. An unknown factor they couldn't have anticipated. That night, I drafted an email to Marissa, offering comprehensive environmental consultation for the event. I attached my credentials, made myself invaluable, because here's what my family didn't understand. When you have leverage, sometimes the best revenge is making yourself indispensable. My phone glowed with those Easter screenshots, evidence of betrayal, proof of deception. But now they were something more. Insurance for the future I was about to create. A future where I wouldn't be invisible anymore. One way or another, they'd finally see me. "Marissa loved your sustainability proposal," Katie texted 2 days later. "Mom's having to include you in planning now. She's not happy." I smiled at my phone screen. Good. I'd meticulously crafted that proposal, knowing it would trap them. Environmental impact assessments, carbon footprint calculations, sustainable vendor recommendations, all requiring my direct involvement. I'd made myself the bridge between their desire for a perfect event and Marissa's eco-conscious values. The first planning meeting came Friday. I arrived at my parents' house carrying portfolios and presentations. My mother answered the door, her smile strained. Danielle, prompt as usual. In the living room, the usual suspects gathered. Aunt Patricia, Harper, Uncle Tom. The family gathering committee, now forced to acknowledge my existence. I've drafted 3 sustainability plans. I began professionally, spreading papers across the coffee table. Each tier offers different environmental benefits. The platinum package could actually save money long term. My mother studied the documents reluctantly. This seems comprehensive. It is. Marissa will appreciate the thoroughness. I pulled out my phone deliberately. I documented similar projects for Amberlin Ventures. Would you like to see? As I swiped through work photos, the Easter screenshots remained safely in my Project Family Reunion folder. But my finger hovered nearby. A subtle reminder of what I could reveal. My mother noticed the gesture, her eyes sharpening. We'll review these, she said quickly. I'm sure you have other commitments. Actually, I cleared my schedule. Marissa and I have a conference call Monday to finalize details. I gathered my papers with deliberate care. She said she trusts my judgment completely. The power shift was palpable. For once, they needed me more than I needed them. I was no longer the forgotten daughter they could exclude at will. I was the environmental consultant with the bride's ear, essential to their perfect event. And everyone in that room knew it. Over the following weeks, I wove myself into every aspect of the event. Marissa and I developed a genuine rapport. She wasn't just eco-conscious, she was genuinely kind. As we discussed catering options via video chat, she mentioned something that shifted everything. Katie said you're so organized. I can't believe your family doesn't involve you more often. Her smile faltered. Oh, did I say something wrong? No, I assured her, though my mind raced. Actually, there's something you should know. I made a decision. Scrolling to my Easter photos, I turned my laptop screen toward her. This was Easter Sunday, the day my mother told me our family brunch was canceled due to construction. Marissa's face transformed from confusion to outrage as I showed each photo. Oh my God. They deliberately excluded you? And planned to invite me to help organize the event I'd likely be disinvited from? Her anger was cathartic. That's unconscionable. She paused, considering. You know, Robert and I were considering posting our wedding photos in a sustainability article for the Pittsburgh Environmental magazine, with your expertise highlighted. A slow smile spread across my face. That sounds wonderful. By evening, Marissa had texted Robert about my Easter revelation. By morning, Robert had called every family member, livid at their treatment of me. My phone exploded with messages. Katie, I'm so sorry. I should have defended you better. Uncle Tom, we need to talk about this properly. Even Harper. Mom's freaking out. Robert's threatening to cancel everything. But the text that satisfied me most came from my mother. We need to discuss this family situation. Let's meet privately. The balance had finally tipped in my favor. For once, they would have to face consequences for their cruelty. Now I stood here in my Pittsburgh kitchen, watching my family's carefully constructed facade crumble through text messages and voicemails. The Easter screenshots that once made me feel invisible now gave me complete clarity about who I was. Not the forgotten daughter, but the woman who finally found her voice.